This episode is brought to you in partnership with the wonderful Docket. Mums, founders, we have a lot of paperwork, a lot of admin to manage. Docket is the can't live without it app that streamlines all your admin into one place. Store all your important documents and policies, track your subscriptions and expenses, set up reminders for bills, and stop around £120 a month leaking from your household. Search Docket in your app store, that's DOQIT, and the code UPS050 for your discounted subscription. That's UPS050. Thanks so much to Docket. Hello, I'm Caroline Marshall, and welcome to Bump to Business Owner, the podcast speaking to mums in business, you. I'll be in conversation with some of the most inspiring women and mothers in enterprise about their journey, how they created their successful businesses alongside raising their children, and what that looks like in work and family life. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Bump to Business Owner. I'm your host, Caroline Marshall, and today I am so excited to welcome the inspiring Ning Cheah to the podcast today, a woman whose work is likely already sitting in many of your beauty routines. Ning is the founder and CEO of The Beauty Crop, a clean beauty brand that has become known for its high-performing, plant-based products that don't compromise on fun, affordability, or ethics. With a background in chemical engineering and a high-powered career in investment banking behind her, Ning's personal struggle with eczema and cystic acne led her to launch The Beauty Crop in 2014. And now multi-million-pound business, it is a brand that crops out heartful ingredients while delivering vegan, cruelty-free, nutrient-rich cosmetics in sustainable packaging. Since launching in 2014, it's become a cult favourite stocked in major retailers like Boots, Beauty Bay, ASOS, and Urban Outfitters. Today, we dive into her incredible career shift, the realities of building an international brand while giving birth to and raising two little ones. Our first beauty founder on the podcast, and I am so excited for this, Ning. Thank you so much. Wow, what a business you have built, and I cannot wait to dive into it because it's really inspiring. And I know a beauty brand is, I think, something that so many women listening to this will be like, oh, I'd love to, especially as that's not your background, and it would just be so great to dive into. So did you ever think entrepreneur or founder life would be in your career path, having gone into banking? Tell us a bit about your path into going into being banking and studying chemical engineering.
Well, first of all, Caroline, thanks for having me here. I love your podcast. I love what you're doing. So yeah, no, really honored to be here. I guess my career into owning a business in beauty is pretty unconventional. If you asked me if I was going to be an entrepreneur when I was 16, I wouldn't have fathomed it. I kind of have a pretty entrepreneurial family. My sister has her own business. My father had his own business.
Yes, an entrepreneurial dad. A lot of us on here have had that.
But I would have to say, I came here to the UK for my studies for university. I did chemical engineering, and then straight after graduating, I got recruited into financial engineering within an investment bank. So I was really lucky to get that opportunity because it was pretty much like an MBA without paying for it. But I would say that my career in banking was very stressful. I think people who have been in that industry knows that it's pretty male dominated. I joined back in the heydays of 2000s, 2005 actually.
Wow, just before recession then.
Recession, yeah, exactly. And I actually joined Lehman Brothers, which eventually went bankrupt.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, from there, I loved the opportunity. It was really stressful. It was very challenging. But at the same time, it just wasn't my passion. And I was looking for other things. And I was, kind of daydreaming of when can I leave this industry, because it just paid so well that you can't really leave it unless you have something else to get onto. But it became so bad that I had really sleepless nights. That Monday fear, with getting up on Monday was just so awful. I think I was almost like in a minor depression. I don't take that lightly. I know people who suffered it, but yeah, just didn't really like what I was doing. And I was, just going through my brain, wrecking through my brain what else I could do. And at that time when I was in banking, I was not eating well, not sleeping well, not taking care of myself, working crazy hours. And I developed really bad cystic acne. And at the same time, I have always suffered from eczema. So eczema plus cystic acne just caused my skin to just have a really bad reaction. Anything that I put on it used to burn my skin off,
Wow.
especially within cosmetics. And when you're having a career like client facing role, it's really bad if you're going there with bad skin. So I tried everything, and I realized that there was a gap in the market for better formulated color cosmetics primarily. I know there was like a lot of organic skincare back in the thousands and natural skincare, but nothing really within color cosmetics. And I know 10 years on, we do have like some Sephora brands, but there still isn't anything within that affordable price range.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really clung on to that gap in the market, and I did more research. I realized that, okay, maybe this is something I can do as a side hustle. And I created my first product while I was still working in banking. And then I eventually left my job 2 years after I created the brand.
Wow. Oh, wow. I was gonna say, your skin looks absolutely beautiful now. And I, like you, I had cystic acne and it was like, I was fine. All my life, it was just a bit of hormonal spots, nothing bad. As a teenager, I get a monthly period spot. Who doesn't? But it was when I was overworked, like I imagine you were in banking, overworked and pregnant with my first child, actually. So hormones everywhere. And it was the worst. I had it all around here. And then I got married 4 months after and still had bits of it. And I ended up going down the medical route because I just wanted a quick fix. And so, did you start with that? Or did you see once you stepped away from banking, it really was stress related, that condition you had? Because I think it's so important because grown up women, when you've got cystic acne, it's just awful.
It's awful. And yeah, no, for me, it took a toll on my self-esteem, to be honest.
Mm,
But I think it's a combination of the stress and not eating well and not taking care of yourself,
yeah.
basically.
And when you're stressed, you don't, do you? That's what I've learned over the years. And what was your first product and how did you go about starting that?
Yeah, so when you said with cystic acne you went down the medical route, I went down like a rabbit hole of just turning around products and reading the ingredients,
Mm,
to see what I was not, well, I was allergic to or didn't do well with. And I came across that a lot of products which had too much fragrance really caused me to have bad reactions. And then also anything with like denatured alcohol, so like just ethanol, gave me really bad reaction, caused me to have like dermatitis. So yeah, that was, when I was aspiring to create my first product, I think I focused on what I wanted in, but also what I didn't want in formulas. And I'm, I guess, fortunate enough to have that chemical engineering
I was
background.
going to say, did that really help you? You're naturally a science-based person. That's what these products are, isn't it?
Exactly, and yeah, and so I was working with a lab, and I think our first product was a lip and cheek tint which had beetroot pigments in it. Yeah, so I worked with a lab on that to create that product, and yeah, and that product got taken up by Urban Outfitters initially, and yeah, I guess the rest is history.
And you self-funded at the start, because I say it is, that's what I hear. I've met a couple of founders go from banking to founder life, and it really is tough industry to leave. Like you said, the money is amazing kind of thing, and you've not had your children yet, so it's not like when you've taken maternity leave and you're like, oh, I'm used to not that level of income. Did you always think you'd need like a get out plan for banking? Would it have worked with family life?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I guess, would I have done it? Would I have started a business if I had kids? Maybe I would have been a bit more risk averse because there's just, you just have to pay so many more bills, school fees, and, all that stuff. And in hindsight, I think without hindsight, that was good. So being really naive around the process was quite
Yeah.
helpful.
We talk about that a lot, being naive before you go. It really helps you start a business. I think parenthood is the same, maybe. That's what they have in common.
Yeah, there are lots of parallels there. But yeah, no, I probably would not have started business if
Mm.
I had children.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. And so you funded it yourself, and I also saw you raised, wow, like 175,000, was it, through crowd to fund? So with your experience in banking, working in male-dominated fields, we know what the funding industry is like for women. What was your decision behind how you'd get investment, and how did that look like?
Yeah, sure. So crowd to fund was a debt financing piece. So to date, we haven't had any outside equity investment into the company.
Wow.
And I think it's because I just didn't want to give too much away so early on.
Mm,
But it's really tough, I guess, because we're in a consumer goods business. And I suppose, unlike, a service-based business or
mm,
maybe a digital business, consumer goods, you need more money the more you sell because you need to buy inventory. And so, yeah, the bigger you grow, the more funding you need. And I would say that what was helpful was having sort of a finance background, but also trying to find efficient bank financing or debt financing because, yeah, it's, working capital and cash flow is so crucial, and making
mm.
sure that you just have enough cash flow because, you might have to purchase inventory and then you would wait like 3 to 6 months to recoup on, that cost, right?
Mm.
So I would say that if you're starting out, look at the financing options. It's not just about equity funding, but there's so much government supported schemes that you could apply for, and you could get favorable debt financing without giving away too much.
And what is debt financing, just to explain that to anyone here? Because I don't think I've actually heard that term before myself.
Yeah, so debt financing is basically, it's debt or equity, right? So, like, you were to sell a piece of your company, like a share, that is considered equity financing. And
Mm,
debt financing is like just getting a bank loan, effectively.
okay,
Yeah. So
yeah. And that's the route you chose to go down.
I chose to go down that without giving away a share of my business.
So have you done any fundraising since that's given away shares to your business?
No, I haven't.
That's amazing.
I contemplated it last year, and I would have to say it's very, very challenging. And the statistics of, the percentage of women-owned businesses that get funding from like venture
It's
capital,
2%.
yeah, it's really, really minute. And it's because I suppose I've been to so many of these conversations, and the decision makers out there are a lot of men in suits who might not necessarily understand the industry that we're in. So it was very challenging, but also because we didn't really have a gun to our head to raise funds. Yeah, so I didn't look into that. But I do, my hats off to women who have done that because, yeah, it's so challenging out there, and if you can get it, why not?
I love that though, but you have a multi-million pound business and you're thriving, but it shows that you've gone a different route, which is always really good for others to hear about, and to how they can get there without giving away equity, because some founders just don't want to do that. And also knowing statistics, if you're like, well, if there's another route, why don't I try that? And you're so right, because it is like, especially with makeup, we all get it. We all want better skincare. And, me and you can relate on things like cystic acne affecting our self-worth. But if it's men funding it, they don't have the same lived experience that we do, right?
No, absolutely not. And also they're looking at numbers. That's part of what they're doing, but
Mm.
they're not looking at objectively, the brand awareness levels, etc. Yeah, look, I think it is very challenging. I'm not saying that I won't ever look at external funding,
Mm.
but it is something that I keep my ears to the ground on. But right now, I've got great relationships with the banks that have supported us, and they've really helped with holding our hands through some difficult periods too. So you'd be surprised that there
Wow.
are like really good banks out there who almost act like, almost a support party.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. That's such a positive journey to feel. Because also you've got a team as well, and not just talking about cash flow. Like if you can't pay your team, that can ruin a business as well. It's not just the inventory.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
well, so let's talk about babies then. You had your baby since having your business. Did you come up with, was it planned? Did you come up with a plan? Did you think, right, I want children, I'm going to put in a maternity leave plan in place for myself as a founder? How did that work for you?
When I had my first one, who is now almost 7, going on 17.
We got similar ages, I think. Mine are, yeah, almost 7 and 5. 4. I keep saying 5. I'm really bad with my second kid's age. She's 4.
Yeah, no, look, the first one I had planned to have her, but I went through a difficult time getting pregnant, and I think I think as women we have all these grand plans in your head. Oh, I'm gonna do this at this point, but sometimes your body is just not prepared for it, or the circumstances wasn't quite right. So yeah, I think it's also healthy to talk about, fertility issues within women. Falling pregnant during the first time is also difficult. So I
Yeah.
went through some fertility investigations, etc. And when we were lucky enough to fall pregnant, I was
Oh,
really
wow.
elated. So had really focused on getting healthy during the first one. Yeah, and quite honestly, because it was still such a young business at that point. I didn't really have maternity leave.
I think the pressure to, like you've put it right there, the pressure to get healthy when you fit that women feel when if you're struggling with something like fertility, it can go too much the other way sometimes as well. And thank you for sharing that because it is that way as well. Like you're building this young business and really desperate as well to start a family, and that is the realities for so many women out there, and it's to talk about it. And so how did that go then, juggling? Was it just you at the time? Did you have a team or just
I had a very small team at that time. I think there was 5 of us at that point. And yeah, I didn't take any time off. When you're breastfeeding, you get a lot of time and you breastfeed.
yes.
So I was always scrolling my phone, answering emails. And I don't know, it was really crazy because now that I've just had the second one 2 years ago,
Too.
I did take 3 months off.
Oh, lovely. Well done.
And I wish I did that for the first one.
I think with the first one as well, because I say this, I was working, I was employed with my first, but it was a startup. And we weren't financially ready, so I took very little leave. And then with my second, I was more flexible because I ran my business by then and it was COVID. So there wasn't a lot going on either, but it was like I did have to make peace with certain elements of those maternity leave points were different for me, and I've had to make peace with that. Have you felt that as well? If you've had any friends who've been like going to baby classes and things, if you just had to kind of realize your journey looks a bit different?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I was always envious of people who had, like 12 months off, 6 months
Mm.
off. And I really think it's such a precious time. It's great if you can get that time off. But also, I think I'm also fortunate that because I had my own business that, like you said, you can manage your own time.
Mm.
You didn't have to ask from your boss.
No, and I'm so much more flexible now, and they're older and with holidays and stuff than some of my friends who are tied in to jobs you have to be there and they have a boss and annual leave. And so it's like I've sacrificed that, but I get this instead. I sometimes get the long hours as well with being a founder, but I still get them on my terms a little bit, don't you think?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's plus and minuses. Like, great, you can take that time off, but then I think the challenge is also coming back in if you are, employed in
Yes.
a stressful environment that is maybe less supportive.
Mm.
Because back when I was in finance, I would see a lot of women who would have their career stagnate at the point that they have children. And that is just so unfair because I actually think that women who have children are almost better employees because you're just, you're multitaskers, you get things done because you have a finite timeline.
Yeah. And you just on it. You're like, right, I've got to work. I've got 4 hours. I'm going to do it. Is that I'm not going to like over and get a drink and have some chit chat and like glance at my emails. And it is that. And I think it's so true because they are saying it's not a gender pay gap anymore. It's a maternity gap because that's where it's happening. And I think the sector you were in before is a prime example of that, isn't it? And so with your second, you were like, I'm going to take maternity leave. How did that go? How did that work? Did you do a good, did you manage to take those 3 months?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And I was really lucky. I have a great team. We are almost 30 now. So was able
Wow,
to just,
30.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, just switch off, just switch off for that 3 months, which I was really lucky to have. And I think, but for me, and I don't know about whether it was the same for you for the second one, but I worked all the way up till basically I was having contractions and then I switched off.
I didn't because I did that with my first. I did the opposite, and then so I was like done. I was like handed it over, and I thought I'm just gonna watch Christmas films and look at my computer. And I was so done. But he was very sick, so I'm kind of a big believer in you got to plan and like not trying to be doomsday on anything, but there's things that it's one of those great uncertain areas of life, and I think the worst case scenario is you're back at work the next day because you want to be, which I don't think anyone is. If you plan, I think that's the great way. So well done in doing that. And what has been the realities? Because you had a business before you became a mum, and obviously you were, of course, going through your own challenges with fertility and things. Did your work life kind of change in a way you couldn't have imagined when you were dreaming about becoming a mum?
Absolutely. I think no one really prepares you for motherhood. That, first of all, after giving birth, you're just so hormonal. Your body has totally changed, and your lifestyle has totally changed. I still remember, I used to get manicures and pedicures on a very set day. That's just out of the window. Like having that 1 hour off in a week is a luxury, to be honest. But now 7 years in being a mom, I think it's so crucial for us to just block out your calendar for your me time because it works so much wonders to just have that time for yourself, whether it's like going to the gym or even, just switching off. Because, yeah, there's all this like mom guilt, right? You feel mom guilt for just having time to yourself. And I definitely get that, especially when I'm traveling, I'm away from the kids. So yeah, no, for sure, being able to block that time out of my calendar really helps me mentally as well.
I'm a huge fan of blocking things calendar, but it's also that point is that no one's going to do it for you. Like most of the time, our husbands do that themselves. And I think I even read Michelle Obama's book, and she said about being resentful over Obama going to the gym and stuff. And it was such a poignant point. She was like, well, it's my response. He's not going to do it for me, so I'm going to do it. And then she found her way of making sure it happened, and it is. And I think so many women guilt themselves for it, but it's like put it in your calendar, whether it's lunchtime or morning, something like that. And yeah, there's all the logistics come with it, but it's so important because how are we going to like serve others if we're just like draining ourselves of anything that's also good for us? It doesn't work in my opinion. So thank you. Love that hack of calendar.
I also think that, I think we should learn a little bit from men as well. They don't
Mm.
they don't have that amount of guilt. Like, my husband goes for golf, that's like 4 hours away.
I feel you on the golf. I'm a golf widow at the minute.
Yeah, no, we should definitely take a page from men.
A business growth program at the minute, and I said as soon as that's over I'm going back to dance classes. And I was like, it will be happening if you can find time to go to the Gulf Range. I'm doing this. So that's true, we should learn from them. And so as a team, you're a team of 30, you've stocked in some huge retailers. What have been some of the challenges of scaling your business?
Like I mentioned previously, one of the biggest challenges is cash flow and really managing that well, because with retailers, you tend to have payment terms. So for instance, they would receive goods. So they would write you a purchase order. You would send them goods, but they might not pay you instantly. It might have, a payment term of net 30 or net 45 or even 60, 90 days. So
Wow.
being really able to manage the cash flow has been challenging, because obviously the more successful you are, the more they will buy from you, the more inventory that you need to send them and you need to purchase yourself. So it's a constant battle, I feel, on that side. But also I think for us there are a lot of unknown expenses, right? So when you're with a retailer, they typically might require you to have a joint venture in terms of marketing spend. So they would expect you to spend a certain amount for marketing or investment into ads, or I don't know, like a little promo, so like a 3 for 2 sort of promos, which is really typical for like drugstores.
Mm.
So you really need to crunch the numbers to make sure that, number one, the numbers work, right? You're being able to spend that marketing spend and being able to support that relationship with a retailer, but also see like tangible results from that in terms of your P&L. So I think that's number one. But number two as well is being in a retailer is great and it looks like you're doing really well. But if you don't see that sell-through rate and people are not picking the products off the shelf, it just becomes a bit of a vanity exercise. So
Yeah,
it's
not
really,
long term.
it's not a long-term fix. So
Mm.
for us, we are always focused on putting products which have tangible demand, because you don't want to, it's almost like real estate. You don't want to put something on a real estate or product on that real estate that will not be sold off the shelves. So I would say it looks great from the outside. Sometimes the reality is that being with a large retailer isn't that a great of a business move. So like for us, we are 90% direct to consumer.
I was going to ask you this question because the geek in me wanted to know. So you're 90% direct to consumer. That's incredible.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's good to diversify your income, and also I guess 90% is not great because we're not. It's good to have a bit less maybe D2C, but we're still going through this journey.
Yeah.
But it's good to see, because we own that data. We see who's buying what and what
You know your customer inside and out that way, don't you? For anyone who doesn't know, because you have all that data, but you don't have who's gone to Boots to pick up your lipstick kind of thing, do you?
like, we know this customer has come back 3 times in the past 6 months, and
Mm.
this is what they bought the first time, this is what they bought the second time. So it really helps us with also developing new products. And you don't get that sort of information if, let's say, you were with a large retailer. You can get that information, but you have to buy it. So again, it becomes another expense. So I would say it looks like a really nice billboard, but
Yeah.
reality is it might be quite different.
I love that. I think there'll be so many product businesses that will really learn from that. And that's really excellent advice there. And I just wondered, because you talk about cash flow, and I know that's so stressful for a business owner. So the stress you had in your banking career, how does it compare to the stress you can feel as a founder and mother trying to navigate day to day? Would you still choose that over that stress? I mean, at motherhood you choose obviously, but it's which stress kind of backs it out, because your skin looks amazing, so I can tell there's no cystic acne going on at the minute.
I think the stress that I felt in banking was high, but owning your own business is scary, and I feel a lot more stressful, because you're a certain amount of people who rely on you to make sure that they have livelihoods. So that's really stressful, but also it becomes quite lonely, and I
Yeah.
If you've got a co-founder, that would be great, or if you have investors, that is also good. But it is quite lonely because, at the end of the day, there's not a lot of people who really understand what you're going through. It's stressful in another way that whether it's cash flow, whether it's just that uncertainty of where things will head in the next 6, 12, 24 months. So yeah, I think that's really stressful, but then also motherhood in itself is challenging, but it's for me a different type of stress because it's
Yeah.
self-inflicted.
Yeah. It's true. And I wonder as well, just with the times that was we're talking, we've just gone through Trump's tariffs, everything, and the economy. Do you think people, I've gone to lots of talks where people saying, 20 years ago, you do a 10-year plan, and no one does that for large businesses anymore because we're all just a bit like, what's going to happen? Do you think that adds to the uncertainty as a founder of what we've been living through the past few years?
Yeah, 100%. Like you never, for me, I don't forecast out beyond 3 years, to be honest.
That's really good to know. I'm on a business growth program and we're only doing 3 years. So yeah, I feel like when people say, where do you want to be in 5 years' time? That gives me a bit of like, oh,
I can do a finger in the air and say, I want it to be
manifest something.
manifested, but I think a 3-year plan is more realistic because it just sets the goal on where you want to be in that more tangible time period. Great if you can do 5 years, but 10 years also becomes like, well, at least in consumer retail, I
Yeah.
think it is quite challenging to forecast out that far
I
ahead.
guess you could think all our products might change in 10 years' time, couldn't you? You could be like, if the market shifts in what you're doing, I can imagine that's a huge part of it as well.
I think it becomes a theoretical exercise at the end of the day,
Mm.
if you go beyond 5 years. But also, there's so many challenges these days. Obviously, you mentioned the tariffs, but we went through COVID,
Hmm.
and actually for us, COVID was a really good event because it helped us pivot. So I would say, there's a lot of uncertainties, but there's also lots of opportunities.
Yes, I love that. We've been doing that on my course as well. And that's true because for some businesses, when there's uncertainties, there's opportunities for others. We're seeing that in recruitment, but it's a hard industry right now. I run a virtual assistant agency, but we're doing quite well right now. So it's interesting that the market shifts kind of thing because that need for a service and temp support is there right now. I'd love to know then, you've got your team of 30 and two children. What's your support network? I like to really normalize these conversations, especially I'm in the support industry. A lot of our female founders have VAs, or myself, I've got an amazing cleaner housekeeper once a week. What's your support network to help you manage your week? And what does your week look like?
Oh gosh, yeah, no, that's such a good question, and yeah, you're right. We need to normalize these sort of conversations because we can't do it all.
No.
I have an amazing nanny. She is like Mary Poppins, and
Oh,
we were so
amazing.
lucky to have her. And I almost feel I dread the day that we have to let her go because obviously children go to school.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she's an amazing nanny. She is with
Wow.
me from 8 in the morning all the way till 6, which is when I hit home. On a typical day, because my little one Noah, he's still young. He hasn't turned 2 yet.
Oh,
So yeah, I'll get myself ready around 6:30. By 7:30, I'll get Noah, pick him up from his cot, and then juggling getting my 7-year-old ready for school, and then we're out the door by 8 a.m. when my
wow.
nanny arrives. I do the school drop off, then drive to work, and there are just times when that's why you need a really good support system. And my husband is really supportive, and I think there he does a lot of I would drop both my husband and my daughter at the school gate, and then he would take the time to go and speak to the teachers or look at her
Amazing.
work. And then at 6 p.m. when I get home, I would do the bath time. So that's my time with the kids.
Love that. Bath time is your non-negotiable in that time.
Non-negotiable, exactly. And that's such a precious time for me. And it's so nice to see them interact with each other now, because
Yeah.
they Noah's not even 2, but he's constantly fighting with his big sister.
They learn to fight quite young. 6 months old, my second was trying to get a magnetile off my first, and I was like, "How are you managing?" They learn to fight for what they need.
Well, and then, bath time, I'm really lucky that my nanny feeds both kids. And so when they're at bath time, they're more
Really?
relaxed. I put them to bed, put the little one to bed. And then it's, girl time between myself and my,
Oh,
yeah. So we might do like a sheet mask or, just something.
oh. That is so lovely. I think my second, I've got two boys, so I miss out on that. But I think my second's more into like pampering himself, so maybe I'll get that time with him. My first would be like, no way, I'm not putting that on my face.
No,
Even my
no.
second.
Or just watch a movie.
That's so sweet. And it is that because in other, so many jobs, people, I mean, I was talking to my stepmom who works in finance. She said she'd be home late. So my brother would stay up later than we would because just so she could see him in the evenings, kind of thing. And yeah, thank you for sharing that because, like, support roles are needed, nannies, childcare, it's all needed, and that's what it takes to grow your business. And you've talked a bit about failures and hard times. Have you ever thought about walking away from founder life? Have you ever had a moment of like, oh, I just go be employed?
No, honestly, I have many moments of that. When things are not as rosy, or, for us, we always come to a cash crunch just before Q4, quarter four, which is like in
Yeah.
retail, it's the golden quarter, but you've spent all that money to get inventory and get everything ready for your golden quarter. And so,
So
like,
it's Q4 for you, January to March, or the end, or
um,
the
from October till
to
December.
December. So that's your Q4. Excellent. I was going to say January doesn't seem like a good month, but good. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you spent a lot of money and then you're very stressed about if it's gonna people are gonna buy.
Exactly. So there are just those days where it's like it feels so dark and gloomy. Why did I do this? Why couldn't I have just clipped the coupon and stayed on his salary?
I think it's so normal. I think there's times you're like you glamorize just being paid for the job you do if you go employed. But you stuck with it, and I'd love to see like you don't have a plan for 5 to 10 years time, but what would success look like for the beauty crop in 3 years time? What have you got anything on the horizon coming up, or for you like personal plans?
Yeah, no, I think we've got such exciting plans this year. We launched on Amazon recently for UK and the US. Actually, our goods are still stuck in the US because of the tariffs, but
That's founder life realities right there.
yes. So that's really exciting. But also, I think for us, international expansion is on the cusp. I think we are looking to do that baby steps this year already with Amazon US, but also have been having a few conversations around other jurisdictions like parts of EU. And then, yeah, I think we are expanding in the UAE this year as well with
Ah,
Boots.
exciting.
So it is exciting, and I think, with the team now, it's so different from startup because we're now at scale ups phase. With the team that I have now, there are just a few more hits of the team. So I've been able to just let go of certain areas because number one, I'm probably not, well, I know for sure I'm not qualified enough in those areas. And so being able to have members of the team who actually know exactly what they're doing, being able to delegate to them, and then also, yeah, I think at this stage, really, really excited for the team that I have because, I love to see what they can do and also giving them that space to grow the business.
Yeah.
So yeah, really excited. And also in terms of our products, we launched a few new categories. Last year we launched SPF, which is a new category for us. And then this year we launched into fragrance. So it's really exciting to see where things could go because I really believe the brand could be multi categories. I think I love to see the brand expand into other categories. So yeah, I'm really excited to see where it goes because ultimately for me, I'm a product person. I'm just so
Mm.
geeky about product. It's my bread and butter.
But what you've said is key there. You're in scale up mode and you've got to be letting go of the work now, like hiring senior people who know what they're doing in the areas so you can focus on your zone of genius. And I think that's so important for leaders to do. And you have to do that in, it's not your exit, but some mini exits roles kind of thing. Wonderful. And Ning, I love to talk about joy. I've gone on a whole journey myself after postnatal health. And last year, I really discovered as women, I don't think we have enough joy in our lives. I'm actually reading another book about it right now. But I think something that's kind of radical for us as mothers to, like I said, you carve out time. What do you carve out time for? Where does Ning find joy? It could be reading. Someone said skipping in the garden, and I love that and might steal. Might buy a hula hoop, it's inspired me. But for me, it's dance and theatre trips are essential in my life. What brings Ning joy?
I love a good workout. I love
Love
to
it.
sweat it out. So that brings me joy. But also, I love a good K-drama,
What drama there? Sorry, I misheard.
Korean drama.
Really interesting. It's a genre I've not tapped into. What's different about K-drama? I mean, I love K-pop documentaries, but
Exactly. If you love K-pop, you'll get it. K-drama, it's, lots of tears, lots of drama, as you put it. It's so addictive. And then for me, it's just that time away from the kids, time away from just turning it off. I'll put on a sheet mask or I'll put on a mask, and then I'll just binge watch K-drama.
oh my gosh, if replace that with Real Housewives and you have my perfect evening.
There you go.
Amazing, Nick. Well, thank you so much. Where can people find out more about you and the Beauty Crop?
Yeah, so you can find more about us on thebeautycrop.co.uk or .com. And we are also on TikTok, which is our preferred social platform, or on Instagram at The Beauty Crop.
Ning's got a great TikTok as well if you're looking for mother and founder life videos. They're great. So
Oh, amazing.
thank you so much. And thank you for being so open and sharing your journey. And I really look forward to seeing what's coming up for you in the next few years. Thank you, Ning.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Docket for partnering with us on this episode. Don't forget to use the code UPS050 for £5 off your annual subscription and save yourself around £120 a month on household expenses. Search the App Store for DOQIT and use the code UPS050 and go back and listen to my conversation with Docket founder Catherine Ann Reed, Season 3, Episode 19.
Thank you so much for listening to Bump to Business Owner. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please do rate, review, follow, or subscribe wherever you're listening. It really helps us to connect with more mums and business owners. You can DM me on @BumpToBusinessOwner on Instagram, and I'll be back next week.